All right, everybody, welcome back to the Lions Pit podcast. I am your host, Nick Gomez. With me today is my good friend, Austin Cashell, a.k.a. Jiminai, the artist. What's going on, brother? How you feeling?
Good, man. Just excited to be here. I mean,
Yeah.
I think the first time I met you, didn't even know you. I was like, you know what? You got a podcast voice.
Yeah. So it's funny, I was going to bring that up.
Yeah. And we spent like half an hour talking about that.
Yeah, that conversation was very actually instrumental in like kind of getting this process together, which is funny because it kind of comes full circle to actually having you on the podcast now. Because we had that talk and it was a weird time where probably within that like 3-month window, I had like 4 or 5 people kind of tell me that. And then you like coming from like an artist background and telling me like, hey man, like you got a good voice, like you should be doing podcasts. And then we started talking more and got into some really interesting stories. And you're like, yeah, man, you should be doing this. And I was like, there's a reason people keep telling me this. Yeah. And then got introduced to the right people and lo and behold, here we are.
Yeah. That is awesome.
Yeah. It's been a pretty cool little project so far.
And it's wild to think that it was almost a year ago, though.
Yeah,
That
it
part's
was
a little.
I want to say it was like at our Thanksgiving party at Bolden Acres, the pickleball place.
No, it was actually.
Was it at the gym?
No, it was at that the Meanwhile. Was it Meanwhile Brewery?
Meanwhile Brewery.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
That was
my
Christmas
first
party.
time meeting any of those people. Like, because I have an origin story with On It, but I hadn't seen anybody related to the gym in 6 or 7 years. I feel
wow.
like.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then actually, like, to give a short like summary of how this all happened was. I saw on Eric Leha's profile that like he'd been traveling and he'd been like going through these things with his fiance at the time, and I just reached out to him like, dude, like what have you been up to? Like, what's going on? Like, how are things? And you know, he's sometimes a semi-reserved dude, but he was like, yeah, let's go to lunch, and he talked more in one lunch than like all of the time I've known him On It.
Yeah.
And he was like excited about everything. He was talking about everything, these like growth, these patterns, the trajectory. Like he was mentioning On It, and he was mentioning like, you know, they're bringing an artist, and I was like, I'd love to do some art for On It.
Yeah.
And so, literally leaving that lunch, he already had a group text set up with Larry, the GM, and I went in. Larry's super awesome. We had a great conversation. And then he was like, well, we're not ready for art right this second, but let's get you a membership.
Nice.
And from there, it's just like, oh, well, we're having this happy hour, or oh, we're having this Christmas event. And like, it was like, well, just go. You don't know anybody. You barely know the Lehas from years ago. Like, just go. And everybody was like sweet. Like, that's one thing that everybody talks about that gym.
Yeah.
Is that like community and that feeling of like, you know, there's still like testosterone is still involved,
Sure.
but like no one really talks like they're better than you. Everyone is really communicative and really awesome, and like that energy is like something I thrive on. And so, you know, do you want to do a kettlebell? Yeah, I'll paint a kettlebell. Do you want to do a mural? Well, hell yeah, I want to do a mural.
Yeah.
But then I started meeting people, and then that's where like I just hear your voice in the distance. I'm like, that sounds like a radio voice.
A face for radio too.
Yeah. Face, oh, there you go.
That's what my mom used to tell me. No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding, Mom. Yeah, dude. What's funny is I have you saved in my phone as Austin Murals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of people. It's stuff like that. It's Jim, Jimmy. I've gotten Jiminy Cricket, Jumanji, and then it's a lot of like artist.
Yeah, artist. Yeah, just artist.
Yeah, just artist.
Yeah,
muralist.
Before we get into the origin story of On It and how you became a part of it, where does Jiminai come from? So it's not spelled like Gemini, like the zodiac sign. It is Jiminai.
Yeah, it's based off the Romanized lettering of the Japanese Romanized lettering of how you would do the astrological Gemini.
Ah, okay.
You know, there's like rappers out there, there's other artists, there's a lot of people that play around the GEM, but because I have such a long-standing influence, like I take a lot of influence from Japanese art and have forever. Like, I mean, my like early days is watching Cartoon Network and Toonami and like you know
nice.
like the Cowboy Bebops and
Big
the
Samurai Jack fan.
Samurai Jack and Dragon Ball Z and like all of that stuff, all of that culture like was a huge influence when I first got in like serious about drawing and getting into art. And my comics like the comic like style that I was known for a long time is very derivative Japanese. So when I was like, okay, well, you're just another Austin in Austin. You're getting tired of hearing that. So, you know, like, let's come up with a moniker because, you know, all the artists, a lot of the artists that I like love and respect, they all have monikers. They all have like names that they go by. And so Jiminai just was kind of like, well, you are Jiminai. I think at the time, like a lot of, it was when like dating astrology became really popular. I think that's probably some of the influence.
There,
was like, well, all these girls keep saying I'm a Gemini, and I don't know if it's good or bad, but
you're such a Gemini.
we're just gonna lean into it.
Yeah. Just embrace it at that point.
Yeah.
Hell yeah, I love
I'll
that.
take on the multiple personalities.
Nice.
Fine. Yeah, why not?
I always liked it because one of my favorite hip hop albums of all time is Aquemini from Outkast.
Okay,
So Aquarius and Gemini. Aquemini.
Yeah.
One of the greatest hip hop albums of all time, in my opinion. Definitely one of my favorites. But I was like, Gemini. I was like, man, we got to get into that. Where does that come from? That's cool, man.
Yeah. So if you write it in, and for a while, like my socials had the katakana of it, but if you write it in Japanese and then you translate it, it turns into Gemini.
Okay.
In the spelling that I use.
Nice.
Yeah.
So how'd you get started on it? I know you have had an influencer way before I started it on it.
Yeah, my origin story. I mean, I moved to Austin, 2000, let's say 9, and work was wild. It was weird. Like I had a degree in advertising and a minor in printmaking, and there was just nothing out there. They were all like, you need experience if you want to be a designer. You need this, you need that. So I kind of just like took on just kind of whatever at the time. I did like covers for an tattoo magazine that didn't get very far. I took on an internship at this thing called Study Breaks, which was like a college-based. It was like Us Weekly, but for UT and then some surrounding colleges. Well, at the same time, I actually they upped my credit card limit, and so like on a
always
full,
a good thing.
Oh yeah. Full impulse purchase. I bought an entire like starter screen printing rig.
Oh.
And it was like a four color single platen, meaning you can do one shirt at a time, but you can do up to 4 colors. And it had, you know, the flash, it had all the parts. And I just started trying to print my own shirts, do my own clothing line, which was also Japanese based at the time.
Nice.
It was called Sugoi, which is just like the Japanese word for amazing.
Oh, nice.
Oh shit, that's awesome. That's amazing.
Yeah.
And so I tried doing that. That didn't get too far, but in order to promote that, what I started doing was I started screen printing T-shirts at events. So like I take
like live screen printing?
Oh yeah, I take my folding table. I had bolted some 2x4s to the press. I'd like carry it in there like a beast, bolt it to the table, and then I would load up shirts and I might do a couple designs of my own, but then I also got really good early on of taking the poster that was for the event and then like finessing it and reworking it so that it would look good on a T-shirt as a single color.
Yeah.
On top of that, I like would do my own designs. Like I was actually talking to some buddies this week and he's like, "Oh, my favorite is still. Do you remember Riff Raff?"
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
I'll have to send it to you. But he came and played at it was called Beauty Ballroom. It's not there anymore. But he came and performed for 20 minutes because he freaked out because he had done too much drugs and he thought aliens were gonna get him.
Shocker.
Classic Riff Raff.
Yeah. Little did we know he was right.
Yeah,
they were
100%.
No, just kidding.
Yeah, 100%. I don't even know where he's at anymore.
He was right.
Yeah.
No.
And so that's that design, and I'll have to send it to you. But like I got to do my own custom designs, and so like it had like the icy chain and the sunglasses he always wore,
and the wild like designed facial hair and the cornrows.
James Franco was smart to like copy him from Spring Breakers.
Yeah.
4 Spring Breakers.
Yeah, it was a good portrayal. Didn't Riff Raff try to sue for that?
Probably.
Yeah.
I mean, but at one of those shows, actually at Beauty Ballroom, and there's a photo of us. One of my buddies, Henry Chiara, he he had these two friends that he brought to the show, and they were these brothers, and one of them was Eddie. Eddie Vasquez was the creative director on it at the time. And so they were like, and the other was his younger brother, Evie, and like they were like enjoying the music. Henry was great. So they came to like a few other shows, and then out of nowhere, Eddie reached out to me and he was like, "Hey, we have a graphic design position at On It that I need to fill, like a junior designer, because workload's stacking and building up." At the time, I had no idea what it was.
Yeah, how old are you at this time?
Let's say, not to age myself, but like I'm thinking 25.
Yeah, okay, so right around the, like,
26.
I think for like our generation, at least for me and like my friends and a lot of people I talk to, like that's the time when you start to try to like actually figure it out. Like 25 to 28 is like when you start like really starting to see what you want to do and where you're gonna go.
100%. I mean, college is like weird. Like I think we should start college later, or like you should. That's like, well, and people do, but like I don't know a single 21-year-old that has any like clue, at least that I knew at the time. Every single one of them has changed their major. Yeah. Or every single person I know now as an adult who has a degree doesn't use it.
Right. No, I'm right there with you. I've had, and I think I've told stories before on the podcast of like friends that got a degree in biology and then ended up being a manager at like PetSmart. Yeah. Yeah, and then I don't even know what they're doing now, but I don't think it's anything in biology. It's like,
not at all.
Yeah, I had a friend that got her degree in business and then her master's in like sports administration, and now she's a cop. You know, it's like that's 7 years of schooling. I don't want to say wasted, because obviously great experiences and you learn a lot and stuff like that, but she's not doing anything.
7 years of debt.
7 years of debt, and she's like, well, I'll start off in the police academy at a higher position, like because I have degrees.
That is true. Yeah.
But I'm like, okay, but also had you started at 18, you'd be closer to retirement and in a similar position.
100%.
Yeah, because you have, I think it's 20 years for like first responders is usually like the service time before you're eligible for retirement.
Yeah.
And so I told her, I was like, yeah, that's great, but you're now 24 starting off, whereas you are against people who started at 28, or not 28, sorry, 18.
Exactly. Yeah.
So yeah, totally different ways to look at it. I went to school for exercise science, and I am a strength and conditioning coach now. But I'll tell you right now, I don't use anything that I learned in school. I've gotten a handful of certifications since then, and those are much more relative to what I'm doing than anything I learned in school.
I was an advertising major, and I think the year I graduated, YouTube was the invention of the year.
Oh, no way.
So, or it might have been the year prior, but that means, think about the entire way we advertise and market now. None of that existed.
Totally different.
Vine didn't exist. Instagram didn't exist. Facebook required a college ID to have an account. MySpace was still kind of being used.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, because I remember having to have a college email to start a Facebook, Facebook. Facebook. But yeah, MySpace was still the thing back then.
Dude, it was, and so like, I have another buddy that he had a. There's a term for it. I think it's radio, television, film, or something like that. But like, he jokes that he had a degree in VHS tapes.
Yeah.
And it was like, so. I think the big part of the college experience was to gain communication skills, social situations, to try to maintain some level of attention and effort. And it's different for everyone. Like I'm not gonna talk as a creative who kind of always felt like maybe they were gonna end up a creative route. Like college was just kind of like daycare a little bit until you got to the real world.
Yeah.
Hopefully not the same for doctors and other people in
Right.
other arenas, engineers.
That education. That's what I've always said, that I'm like, man, if you're a doctor, an architect, whatever, it's something that you actually need schooling for, like absolutely.
Yeah.
But
for the rest of us.
For the rest of us, the rest of us creatives out here. But I only went to college for baseball. Like if I wasn't going to play baseball, I wouldn't have gone to college.
Yeah.
And so once I was done playing college, I needed something to just keep me entertained still.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what led me down the route that I'm on today. But yeah, man. Like you said, college for you was more like daycare, and for me, it was what I had to do to be on the baseball field. Like I did the bare minimum. Unfortunately, like I'll be the first to admit, I was a terrible student.
Yeah.
Always a good kid. Like I wasn't off like partying or anything like that. But I would go home and like in high school, I'd go home and instead of like doing homework, I'd get out a piece of paper and I'd write down like, what would be my all-time starting 9 on a baseball field? What would be my starting 9 right now?
Yeah.
Or I'd go outside and I'd set up trash cans and try to throw baseballs into them. Like, I wasn't a bad kid. I was just a terrible
But it's
student.
passion versus, like, when you're forced to do something, you almost always rebel.
Yeah.
Almost always. And that, like, that goes through your entire life. But, like, when you're passionate about something, and that's something that, like, we don't finesse enough at the early stages of life, and especially in college, and like learning styles, like, you know, growing up, they were still telling us that, like, oh, kids who doodle, like, they're not paying attention.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I will show you notes from every meeting I've had in the last decade, and there are scribbles and doodles on it.
Yeah.
Because different brain processes allow us, like, to retain information differently.
Right. Yeah.
For some, it's writing. For some, it's just auditory. Like, but for me, like, the act of scribbling while thinking about what they're saying, like, lights up those processes that allowed me to, like, remember and think and get creative.
Better.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. And so, like, schooling while I mean, like, advertising was a joke. We were, like, learning how to buy billboard ads and, like, radio placement. And the one graphic design class was just outdated software. And I spent an entire summer learning a language of which we don't use, well, ActionScript. I think we still, I don't even know. I don't do it, but I learned like the 3.0, and then I got to the class in the fall and it was all 2.0. So like they were a whole behind.
Yeah.
And the language had changed, so I had to learn everything twice. So
yikes.
I think, you know, that's just my experience, and I don't want to speak for everyone because a lot have enjoyed it, a lot learned a lot. It's like slingshot their careers.
Yeah.
It put them in the right places, but like for me personally as a creative, it was tough. I took graphic design classes at ACC here for a little bit just because everywhere I was applying was like, well, you need an associate's at least in graphic design, at least. So I went to ACC and I started taking those classes, and I was light years ahead of the class. Yeah. I've been playing in Photoshop since high school.
Yeah.
Yeah, and my teachers are sweet and like, but they couldn't press me hard, because they had to like keep up with everyone in the class who had never opened Photoshop before. Yeah. And so I'd run into that a lot. I think the most learning I did was, you know, and I don't know how you like track validity on this, but like masterclass style. Mm-hmm. You know, like Eddie at On It taught me a ton. The creative director at Study Breaks, that college magazine I was at, taught me a ton. It was things that you weren't gonna learn because design classes are like, well, here's how you use the software. Mm-hmm. Whereas like you get in there with Eddie and it's like, okay, this is how the On It labels are made. This is how we do our spacing. Notice how this looks like that. He was like good at that kind of like, refining that and then showing me neat stuff about like how to develop my design style.
Nice. Okay, so you're 24, 25, 26, somewhere in that range. You're getting introduced to these people at On It.
Yeah.
Yeah, and in your mind, at this time, like as you said, people that are pursuing passions. In your mind at this time, where you're like, this is going to be the route for me, or are you thinking like, man, I need to find something that's a steady paycheck?
Well, so while I was doing that, it was just chaos, man. It was just I screen printed I screen printed like 40 events. So 40 of my weekends were gone that year, like live screen printing.
40 of the 52?
Yeah, yeah. And it was mayhem, and it was beautiful, and like some of the acts I got to see, but when Eddie invited me to have that call, I was like, oh crap, I haven't even made a resume in a minute. Like, how do you even do that as a designer? Yeah. And to this day, I still don't know. I've been like bouncing from word of mouth to word of mouth for the last decade, so my resume is super outdated. Yeah. But he was like, well, come in, interview, you know, it's like a great place to work, it's gonna be awesome. I was like, okay, I'll do it. Put it together, a resume, I come in, I interview with Aubrey. I think he's in like a tank top and a beanie for some reason in his office.
And sweatpants and sandals.
Probably, yeah, surely.
Or
barefoot, yeah. And this was when we had the first space, which was it was just like a galley. And there was only 20 employees when I first started there. Wow. But it was funny during the interview process, like, he's like looking at stuff and he's like, cool. And then he sees at the bottom, he's like, oh, state champion in gymnastics. And like, that's all he wanted to talk about. He only wanted to talk about the athletic part of it. I was like, you know what? I'm okay with this.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna be mad.
Like, that's probably more of like a relative question than some that get asked in most interviews.
Oh yeah.
You know, there's so many like pointless like standards of or processes of or standards of procedures that like companies follow that like does that question really like relevant to what we're doing? So it's funny that like that's the part like, oh, let's talk about this state champion gymnastic. It's like, yeah, how are you as a person?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that is, I mean, I think like your resume is like at a certain point, like you look like everybody else. Good job. What makes you unique? And in that regards, I think like that placed a small level of respect that, you know, like, well, he probably hadn't met many gymnasts. But on top of that, you know, it's like, oh, okay, well, you're capable of winning big things and putting in the effort that it takes to do that crazy stuff that we see on TV.
Right.
And so, yeah, that was kind of like, I remember that interview and there's like, you're on. And that was my first career salary position was on it.
No way.
It was also my last.
It was also my last.
Yeah.
That's funny.
It was wild, dude. I mean, it was silly stuff like I had never experienced free coffee in the break room.
Oh man.
And so the first week I was tweaked.
Yeah.
Nonstop.
4 or 5 cups a day.
It was a Keurig. Whoa.
Yeah, so fancy.
Oh, so dangerous, so dangerous. But
Yeah.
I learned, you know, like you learn quickly, like how to communicate between different people. You know, like my position was a junior graphic designer, but it eventually evolved into production manager, even though I didn't actually manage anyone. And it was, I had to make sure the compliancy on the label was correct and like go back and forth between the people who do that and the design files. And I had to go like check that they were getting printed correctly. I had to work when business development was happening. I had to talk to like, so you're like, I ran around the office all the time, which either made me look like I was working all the time or not working.
Right.
And it back then it was
Just keep going back and forth to the Keurig.
Oh yeah, all the time, all the
Like,
time.
this guy's not even doing anything.
Yeah, he's always by the Keurig.
Yeah, Aubrey, we got to talk about the new guy.
Yeah, exactly. And so like it was a great experience. I mean, it was Wild West back then. Like like I said, on it was 20 people, 30 people.
What year is this?
That was 2010 or 11.
Oh wow, that's early
Yeah,
days. Wow.
early.
Okay.
Like I said, we were in that galley style, and then we moved into the building that it's in now. There was traction was happening. It was doing well. And like we were spending a bunch of money on cool stuff in the gym, or like not at the gym, but like in the facility itself. Like it was a cool space to be a part of, but I did learn that like it was still a startup in the sense that it was chaos and mayhem, and nobody entirely knew what was going on and what they were doing.
Yeah.
And so like I ended up kind of just like I got thrown all sorts of just random things. It's like, well, we don't know what to do with this.
Yeah.
And so me and Eric, the other designer / artist that got pulled on, and he's the dude who's done all the incredible like Primal t-shirts and all those,
nice.
a lot of the artwork that you see for On It in the early days was Eric's doing in collaborative with his brother.
Yeah.
But like we would just like, I remember like it was like Eric got asked to go fix the door in the bathroom one time or something. It was like we know
As
how
an
to
artist.
we know how to use tools, and my minor's in printmaking, and my entire adult work career, people think that means I know how to fix copiers. Like
Yeah.
it's like, well, this is a classic like training in art. It's a type. It's
Yeah.
like a type of art, but sure, I'll Google how to fix a Xerox. Yeah.
I'll YouTube that just as
Yeah,
easy
exactly.
as you could.
Yeah, 100%. But yeah, back then it was just kind of, it was wild. What I did love though, and you know, kind of back to earlier when I talked about like the community of On It. I mean, you see how the sausage is made. So you know, like I went vegan for a while from On It.
Yeah.
For a few years because
That's
I
a funny way to
wasn't.
put that.
Yeah, I wasn't
Yeah.
fully happy with how it all ended and how things were going and the vibe of the culture. But what I did love was like I loved the fitness aspect that started getting brought into it. So like behind the creative space, there's just this room. That room is now Sweat City.
Yeah.
And it looked like a DMV office, a
Yeah.
weight line. It was just gross in there.
Did you see the post that Juan recently made?
Yeah,
that
was
the picture
us.
of the room.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so wild. It looks like a mid-school. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's good equipment. There's TRXs. There's heavy rope stuff like that. But like the actual like layout of it, I'm like, man, it's so wild to see what it's grown to today because it's an elite training facility now.
100%.
Yeah, and that's just the warm-up room now.
Yeah. And the super hot room. So like Aubrey knew Juan. He brought him on to start doing these co-pay workout classes. And I signed up almost instantly because I have a long history of exercise and athletic endeavors, but I hadn't.
State champ.
Yeah, I needed state champ. I needed, like that little extra push never hurts, right?
Yeah. Also to have that outlet.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah, turn the mind off and the body on.
Instead of the carrier, I'm going to the gym.
Yeah.
Whatever I can do to not work.
It's my pre-workout.
Yeah. So like I'm in there with this dude Carl, who's like actually still on it.
Massage Carl?
Yeah.
Oh man, I love him.
And he was like screaming. You could hear him through the wall into the
Still
creative
screams.
room. Yeah. We're blasting music in there. I would bring some buddies up there. But I didn't
know Carl's been going there that long.
Yeah.
Carl's the man.
Carl may be Juan's oldest client. Well, he doesn't get privates anymore from him, but like one of his oldest clients.
Yeah.
And so, like what I did love about it is like occasionally people would take their hats off when they go in the gym, right? They're like, I'm not the CEO. I'm not the CMO or whatever. And there were moments like Aubrey came in, and he'd play racquetball with us occasionally, but he'd just destroy everyone. So like it wasn't fun.
Yeah, he's a good athlete.
Oh yeah. Well, and he'd been playing it since he was like 6, and I learned it on it. So
on the fly.
Yeah. And then one day he asked who wants to do, and I don't know the term for it, but it's basically bamboo sword fighting.
Oh wow. I don't think it's a screama.
I'm not
like
sure.
Filipino stick fighting.
It's like the Japanese bamboo swords that have they have the breaks on the sword, so they're
Oh,
pretty
yeah.
loud.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I don't care,
that
whatever.
Sounds like my nightmare.
Well, so we put on full hockey gear.
Okay.
Mind you, Aubrey's 6'3"-ish, right?
Yeah, if he stood up straight, he's probably 6'5".
And he was like healthy. Yeah, he was healthy at that time, working out aggressively. I was getting back into it, but I've always been like slim.
Yeah.
And I'm 5'10". And we're in full hockey gear, and we have these swords, and I know he knows what he's doing. And I'm just like, I did get 3 points on him.
Nice. I don't even know how the point system works in like fencing or anything.
It's like a slash, a jab, and something else or something. So I did technically stab my boss in the throat with a bamboo sword twice.
CEO of this multi-million-dollar company.
Yeah. Well, and that's kind of like the short end of this like whole story is that it was a place where everybody would get in there no matter where they were in the tier of the company, and they would like I sparred, I grappled with Aubrey one day. He wasn't too happy I put him in a triangle, and he told me later, he's like, yeah, I pulled a muscle in my neck trying to get out of that triangle. Because he don't want to lose the little old me,
Yeah, and like at that level, I mean, I don't know Aubrey's grappling background, but I know he's not like a 3rd degree black belt. So when you're there's a term called spazzy white belt for a reason. Yeah, you're white knuckling everything. You're going as hard as you can. And purple belts and brown belts are just like, fall into my trap. Fall into my trap because you're trying so hard.
Yeah. It's Venus flytrap style almost. Like they just wait for you to slide just right, and then. But
you're exhausted, and being exhausted in a combat sport like that compared to quicksand, I'm like, it is 1,000% quicksand. It's like the old saying, like exhaustion makes cowards of us all. And you see it even at the highest level of like the UFC. You see fighters like as soon as if they're exhausted. And as soon as they get into something, instead of like fighting the hands, they're like hovering, just waiting to tap, and then they tap. And it's like, man, they weren't fighting that at all. But it's like, if you're exhausted, you're like, you just want it to be over.
No, you can, I understand. I mean, and having been in a few street fights, like I do understand that moment of like, oh shit, we've crossed a threshold here.
Yeah. Now it's just willpower.
Yeah.
It's not about skill anymore.
And if you run out of willpower, then you're just, it's super game over. But
super game over.
After that, a few days later, Aubrey made me spar with Eric Leha. And the second...
Who's had an MMA fight.
The second we slapped hands, he I don't remember what happened.
Yeah.
It's like you wake up from a coma. Like
Yeah, he's got a little bit of cauliflower ear. He knows what he's doing.
And well, so my background with jiu-jitsu was all gi related. I, like you said, like the upper belts, I liked the puzzle part of it. I liked.
Oh, it's chess.
It's human body chess.
Yeah.
And that's what I was like really. So I was really like into the patient and the calm and like the finesse and like, okay, I've grabbed your collar. How do you react? And like doing all that. And then I slapped hands with Eric and he went primal.
Yeah.
Instantly primal.
Yeah, and then that day, Primal Soldier was born.
Yeah, probably. That is the origin story. I want to hear his story now. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll have him on. Eric's going to come on for
everybody. Sure. But yeah, no. And that's the cool thing was like Eric worked there. Juan was always up there. Like some of those dudes that are still there, they have origin stories there.
Yeah. Yeah, I had Juan on last week. And as much as I've talked to Juan and I've known the story of him and a little bit of story of On It, like I still heard things I didn't know.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dang, that is wild. And then to think like, he tells the story in the podcast about how he almost left for PA school to go like Southern Texas, and Aubrey like kind of talked him out of it.
Yeah.
And Aubrey's like, no, you should be training.
Yeah.
And like for me, that hit so hard because I was like, man, if Aubrey never talked Juan out of that conversation, I'm not in Austin right now. I'm not working at On It Gym. Like On It Gym probably isn't what it if it ever became a thing, like without Juan Leja.
No.
So to think about like what has been built on his shoulders, and thank God he's got broad shoulders.
Very broad.
Yeah, thick
and
legs.
What those legs can legs can carry.
Those legs can carry a load, man. That guy is strong.
He's goals. I hope it's not creepy, but I do sometimes respond to his like stories of like that's where I'm headed your direction.
Yeah.
But with my age and with like the sheer difference in our sizes, it's like I'd be happy if I could ever land at Eric. Much less
Eric. Eric has more of like an athletic build. Juan has that like brute strength build.
Which is wild is I took Juan bouldering.
Oh no way!
And that's
How'd that go?
That's the wrong body type for bouldering.
Yeah,
but
Eric would be a little better, but he's still pretty heavy.
So like if you look at like gymnasts and climbers, there's for males there's like it's almost like they're trying to lose as much weight in the leg as possible. Mm-hmm. Like just keep them as thin so they can just throw everything around.
You look at gymnasts and they have huge upper bodies.
Yeah,
they are jacked.
I mean,
and their legs aren't like tiny, but they're you can tell. I mean, obviously you're doing rings or you're doing pommel horse.
Oh yeah,
like that is so much upper
it's
body.
All, yep, yeah. And it's that triangle that they talk about.
Yeah, V shape.
Juan did surprisingly good because as long as you have the endurance of strength, you can maintain, like basic level bouldering, amateur bouldering. We did it indoors. There's mats.
Yeah.
But he seems stoked on it, and I try to take everybody. I mean, I've been talking to all the other dudes like anytime y'all want to go.
Yeah.
Because I have guest passes. Like so, if you want to
I still have my climbing
get on the
shoes.
wall. Yeah.
Yeah, I still have my climbing shoes. I haven't bouldered. So in Albuquerque, it's a big thing.
Yeah.
They host like events and stuff. They have very good rock climbing gyms there. And then there's actually really good outdoor climbing as well, which I never dabbled with because that's scary to me. Did you see Free Solo?
Yes.
Yeah, I feel like everybody that's ever talked about rock climbing has talked about Free
Solo. But he's special.
Oh, for sure.
His brain's different.
Brain's different, and he's capitalizing on that.
And like he just built.
Long. Yeah, it's like I always compare John Jones and Michael Phelps as far as like when you see them walking around, you're probably like, oh, that person's got a very goofy build.
Yeah.
But then you see them in their sport, and you're like, they have the perfect body for their sport.
Yes.
Michael Phelps has long paddle-like feet. He's got tiny little hips, big old broad shoulders and lats. And I'm sure a lot of that has come with swimming.
Yeah.
But it's like you look at John Jones, and he's got tiny calves, very high hips, short torso, long-ass arms.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's perfect for MMA. His levers, like in takedowns and stuff, if I'm not mistaken, I think he's still the only person that took down Daniel Cormier, who's an Olympic wrestler.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's because his levers. And John was a junior college national champ wrestler, which a lot of people don't know that. But that's not an Olympic wrestler like Daniel Cormier. So the fact that he was able to use his Greco-Roman wrestling and his long levers to be able to like be in clinch and then grab your ankle is like what do you do with that? You know what I mean? So like you said, it's kind of like that perfect body for what they're doing.
Wow. And that's, I mean, body type is like you said, well, it's partial like born with, right? But then it develops from those specific types of exercise.
Yeah, we were just talking about it
100%.
before the podcast about me squatting and catching in baseball. It's like I do not come from a family of thick-legged people. Like my dad had skinny little chicken legs. My brothers have little chicken legs. No offense, but I don't. Like I have. It's one of those things I've talked about this before. Like, man, when I pass those pearly gates, Lord willing, I want to know just how many squats I've done in my life. Not just in the weight room.
That would be cool. Like a stat sheet.
Yeah, like you squatted
when you're in the lobby waiting
892,000 times.
Yeah.
Like that's why your calves and your quads and your glutes are big.
I mean, I think funny enough. Well, so the only year of Little League that I like truly enjoyed was the year I got to play catcher, and I loved being. You're watching the game and are the game.
Yeah.
And like it's a great position.
For a busy mind, that's the spot. You can't throw an ADD kid in the outfield because then they're picking daisies.
And I did it.
Yeah.
I did it.
They're looking at balloons flying by. But as a catcher, like you said, you're literally involved in every play.
Yeah.
You're either calling the pitch or receiving the pitch or shouting directions, whatever.
Pitcher can't see behind him.
Yeah.
The rest of the players can't see behind him. You are the one. I was thinking about that and like before coming, to join you up here, but that was my position, like, and then if you start to play, so to pull it back into the art a little bit, like I'm squatting all the time.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
To that idea of squatting, I am like, especially because like murals go from the floor all the way to like however tall it's gonna be, and so half the time I am in that squat position, and I wonder if some of my particular strengths in my lower legs definitely just come from that excessive.
Oh yeah,
but
and probably like mobility too.
Yeah, well, so that's bouldering is actually really good for that. I feel like once you get like once you stop just going in there and blowing your forearms out in like 7 minutes from like trying to do everything right there, and you start using your legs. You're stretching on the wall.
Once I was told to start using my legs in bouldering, it was a game changer.
100%.
Because as a baseball player, like I was way more focused on leg strength than like having like a big, strong upper body. Anyway, I'd rather be like more mobile in my upper body.
Good point. Yeah.
And so I'm climbing, and like you said, man, I'm like I can't open my hands right now. My forearms are shot, my fingers are stuck. And then one of my buddies, Parker Livingston, back in Albuquerque, he has like the ideal.
Build for it.
Yeah, he's like 5'7", 5'8", 150 pounds, probably like 6% body fat.
Yeah.
And like good at parkour. Like I always told him, I was like, dude, and you should do American Ninja Warrior, because it's like that same kind of body
on that,
type.
actually.
Yeah, but yeah, like you said, when someone told me like start using your legs, I'm like, oh man.
And I think I wonder sometimes if like coaching would be something I would vibe on, because I've taken so many people climbing. They don't necessarily listen, but like I can get people to get better fast at it, because you think like, oh, I have to climb up, and like even if you're climbing a ladder, you still got to use your legs.
Oh yeah.
If anything, use your legs more.
Yeah.
It's this idea that we have to brace constantly with our hands. That's what keeps us from falling. And so I guess like maybe from like skateboarding and snowboarding, like, and doing sports that you're not allowed to use your arms.
Yeah.
It's like you just kind of learn intuitively. Like, well, the catcher, you're rarely, you don't put your hands on the ground, but you're in that squat position.
Yeah.
So you're constantly having to move your legs. Jiu-jitsu, same way. Like sometimes how you like implement it's like lock and then leg work.
Yeah.
Climbing's that same idea. And actually, now that I'm sitting here, like I tell sometimes it's like get those hands on there, but then like do the leg work.
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah, set an anchor.
Anchors,
but then
lock, pose, like, and that was, man. Now that we're sitting here, like, it's all kind of pulling how each sport, because gymnastics is a lot of pauses. It's a lot of get to a position and pause. It's about bouldering, same deal. Get to a spot, lock 2 or 3 of your appendages while you move one.
Yeah, get more chalk.
Yeah,
like you're holding on while you're like dipping into your chalk bag. Yeah. It's like, man, you gotta have some pretty insane strength, but like we said, there's a build for it, like there's a good build for it, because some guys are too big, too tall, whatever the case may be. Like tall people don't typically succeed at that. Like I have good levers for deadlifts and squats because I have shorter femurs and a longer torso. So like you said, people are just built like differently for what makes them good at their sport.
100%.
Yeah.
And that is kind of the cool part about when you do get with someone that can actually give you good advice. It's like, and like Craig, for example, who teaches the training technique class, and he's that old West Side head. But
Love Craig.
he will finesse the smallest thing, and it's like, oh well, crap. Carl, again, who's been going to On It since before me, technically, for since the origin. He came to a technique class right before Craig took off, and whatever he said to change Carl's technique, he was like, oh man, he's like, I might have been doing these wrong for the last,
10,
20
15
years or whatever, because he's probably squatting before the class.
Right.
And it's that attention to detail.
Yeah.
I mean, we haven't chatted a lot about art, but like that's like a big thing for me, is the attention to detail, whether it's in art, it's in production related stuff, it's in fitness. Like when you do a sport like gymnastics when you're younger, you have to learn which muscles you're like flexing and where you're engaging and how micro muscles are, like you have to like really pay attention. Like a handstand alone, you have a ton of pivot points that can break. And so you have to get in tune with like all of those pieces. And then you start changing your hand grips and you start swinging in space and like pommel horse.
Yeah.
That was my specialty.
That one's always so sick to watch.
Yeah.
Did you watch the Summer Olympics?
Shout out Steven.
Yeah.
Everyone loves that dude. And rightfully so.
That's
what's funny?
glasses, right?
I wore glasses in high school, and I also took them off to do pommel horse.
Yeah.
It's all Phil.
It was so interesting to me because they kept showing him, and he's like sitting on the bench, like in his sweats, like looks like he's taking a nap, and I'm like, this guy must be nasty. Because to me, I'm thinking of like Mariano Rivera, like he's a closer.
Yeah.
The way they kept showing him, I'm like, oh, this guy's lurking in the background. Like he is way too calm.
Yeah.
And he got up there and just obviously elite performance.
Well, you know what? We talked about the different training styles in the gym, how like, if you go listen to the Gorilla Gang on Saturday, it's the loudest thing I've ever heard. But then you have the dudes that are in there with the oversized hoodies. They're in the corner in the dark. God knows what they're listening to. It might be Taylor Swift. It might be Suicide Boys.
Right.
But it might be Marilyn Manson.
Right.
But like they're on their own solo journey. And for like the athletes that I think that I vibe the most with are those ones.
Yeah.
Like,
oh, yeah.
Everyone's hyping, screaming for the teammates, but you know you're last up. And you're sitting there and you're just visualizing. And you're visualizing. And you're feeling the energy. Because that still feeds you. But like, I'm not gonna move any muscles right now. I'm dialed. I'm thinking about those hand placements. I'm thinking about that extension. I'm thinking about that's where I get sloppy. So we're gonna tighten the core extra there. And for me, like at that time, luckily my team was so good that it was never like too stressed on me, but I completely lost my train of thought there.
Well,
because I started thinking about the routine again. But like for me, it was always just trying to one up myself.
As it should be.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of goes to the culture of On It. Because like my mom, for example, didn't grow up like in an athletic environment. And so I remember getting her to the gym when we were living in Albuquerque, and she's just like, oh, I feel like everyone's watching me. And that's such a common complaint, not complaint, but concern that you hear from people. Like, I don't know, I just don't want people watching me. I don't know what I'm doing. And it's like, at any gym I've ever worked at, you might get like some clowns that are like, look at this guy. Yeah. But more often than not, people are focused on what they're doing. But the community, like you said, at On It is second to none. Like you go in there and like people want to see you succeed. People want to see you because they want you to be able to do what they're doing. Yeah. Like, oh, you see me juggling kettlebells, which I'm not a fan of, but you see me juggling, you see me doing landmine, let me show you how. Let me teach you how I'm doing it. And it's not just the coaches, but there are like great members in there that are doing the same thing. And, you know, I will say this until I'm out of breath, but the community at On It is different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's part of what won me back to joining it. And, you know, like earlier did that vegan comment, like eating meat again. The sausage of On It.
It's a mighty sausage.
Questionable, yeah.
Yeah,
Pause.
Change.
But But like,
Pause.
yeah, it's not only is it, okay, Craig teaches that class on technique. It's now, okay, well, I've taken that information, and if I notice something, I'll share it with someone that if it seems like they're struggling. The groups are huge.
Yeah.
Like the support groups of like, let's work like I think that women I love the women's group that they teach. I maybe that's a common thing at gyms. I don't have a ton of like long-standing experience at gyms.
Not really.
But like the women's only group, they slay.
They get after it.
Yeah, and
they're not in there like they don't bring up like little step pads and they're like doing it to a beat like 1, 2, 3,
no,
1,
no,
2, 3. No, they're lifting.
And the day in particular that I'm thinking of, I'm new to lifting. I've always done movement-based stuff, and I've always done like body weight. Like I don't need to lift a tank. I just need to throw myself around.
Yeah.
And so I'm new to lifting, and so like hip thrusts, whatever, they've been around however long, but I'm just starting to do them. And I'm like, okay, well, I can do about this amount of weight. That's pretty cool. And then I look over at the women's group, and they're cheering each other on where they're lifting 3 times, 4 times their body weight in hip thrust. And they're like, yeah, let's put more weights on. And I'm just like, hell yeah.
Yeah.
Like it's a space for y'all to get in there and work without judgment, like you said.
Yeah. They're doing good training.
Yeah.
They're doing good lifting. Like I said, I mean, first of all, I think more guys should do hip thrusts because you see some women that are moving weight on hip thrusts, and it's such a good movement, even like athletically speaking, it's a good movement.
Yeah.
But Juan has done a great job, a fantastic job of growing that women's program. And now you have Brooklyn, who's just a dynamic young coach that's slaying the game, and she's also started a women's group, and it's like, man, it's so cool to see and all the different areas that we're supporting.
I will say, yeah, that idea of being worried that people are watching. And I make the joke, I was like, well, look, I go to those 2 back, like if I haven't been here in a couple weeks, I go to the back 2 racks. Like, it's fine. Nobody's going to notice you. Like, that's great. But I know like a lot of women, I have talked to a lot of women that just don't want to go to the gym. And I think a lot of it is for that concern. Or a lot of it is like, you go to one of the major chains on a Tuesday, you're going to get oogled, you're going to get bombarded, you're going to get...
You go to Gold's Gym on a Monday night, and it's like high school international chest day.
Yeah.
It's like, come on, everyone's on the bench presses, and then, you're looking at everybody else. But what's funny, like talking about the women not wanting to go to the gym, like I've heard this about Onnit a lot, because you look at Onnit, especially if you're just on the outside looking in and you're looking at our social media or whatever, you're like, that's a lot of testosterone.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on over there. And we've heard that complaint before of like women be like, I don't know, it's just there's not a lot of feminine energy here.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, I mean, you can go to yoga. If you want strictly like that, which I love yoga, that's not a knock on yoga, and because we're also affiliated with Black Swan Yoga, and I'm a huge fan.
Yeah.
But the thing that people don't see is like we have very successful women's groups where these ladies are not only changing their physical appearance, but they're changing their mindset because they're opening it up to being able to lift like that. Because and again, another complaint that is like tales all the time. It's so cliche is like, I don't want to get too big.
Yeah.
And it's like, or I don't want to look like that girl. And it's like, believe me, you're not lifting hard enough to look like that girl, and you're not taking the supplements to look like that girl.
Yeah.
Don't worry about that. Like focus on you. And again, it's one of those things where I'm like, man, like we're doing a really good job of like having like very intentional women's groups there.
It's intentional groups. It's also intentional types of training that focus on the right things, right? And put the right.
A lot of glute building.
A lot of glute building. And like, social media was Pandora's box, or the internet's Pandora's box, but like social media kind of, I'm actually like stoked on it because the body empowerment movement has been massive for women specifically. I feel like there's always going to be the blah, 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 but like I see strong people, male and female, all over Instagram now.
Yeah.
And like I had no access to that prior. I had no access to like, you can't trust everything you see, but like I get knee rehab type videos on there. And then when you see it like, enough times from the right people you trust, it's like, okay, well, I'm going to start trying those exercises.
Yeah.
You see like people that are owning their before and afters.
Oh, yeah.
Shame used to be such a prominent thing, and the internet is still full of shame.
For sure.
And shaming and bullying. But like, there's also been this incredible movement where like, no, like thick is in right now. I'm doing thick for me. I'll do cut later. I'm doing super strong. Like, you're laughing at me, you're giving me crap, but I just like hoisted your body weight up, and you're 2-3 times heavier than me. Like, and so I've been really stoked. I mean, like day one of getting back into On It, it's been super like exciting. It's just been exciting, and from there I've been taking on like all these random art gigs. I painted multiple kettlebells for them. I painted
you've done some
mural.
fantastic work. Yeah, let's talk about that mural in the back in the yard, man. That thing is sick. And when you're talking about earlier about like having to squat down and paint it, I instantly thought of like, it was about 300 degrees outside when you were painting that thing.
Yeah, so that was when summer rolled right in.
Kicked you right in the teeth.
Yeah. I've been trying new things. Like I've been trying like the long sleeve fishing with the hood shirts. I've been trying like different
the construction like flap on the back.
Yeah, I got a sunburn through my hat.
Austin's a different kind of hot.
Austin's a different kind of hot.
Where are you from originally?
I'm from West Texas.
Okay.
So I'm used to dry heat. I'm used to like the flat scenario, but you know, you come out here and we've had an oddly rainy summer. So like
it's been nice.
Humidity's high. It's nice when it chills it. Yeah. But then like, the next few days when it's like hot and humid.
On a golf course, like when you have those post-rain humid days, you're like walking through a bowl of soup.
It just comes off the grass too, huh? Yeah. And the yard it's the outdoor part of the gym, so you've got sun bouncing off asphalt. You're on a metal container that has no sort of cooling to it, I mean, whatsoever. In those moments, like it's ideal to paint in the mornings, and then I was usually stopping around noon. Okay. The last 2 days I went extra long. But yeah, that one was, I mean, I've looked at every inch of the On It gym 100 times. Like, where do I want to put art? Where do I want to put art? Like, I gave a whole proposal about painting the entire inside above, like the ski ergs and the chalk wall.
I've been waiting for us to do something with that, because that's like, I got to imagine that's like a painter's dream to have that big canvas. That's
it is, but it's also
chapel.
Yeah. Well, and I was actually scheming ways to paint on substrates and then mount, because
there's like cables or
like spray painting in there. Just never gonna happen. You never spray paint in an already completed business. You shouldn't. You can, but it requires like you have to create a box and you have to create a fan system to suck the air out, and you're just guaranteed killing brain cells. So once a business is open, like I either have to do brush paint or paint something and then find a way. Yeah, you could just paint 1/4-inch panel and mount it in there.
Okay.
So there's ways to do it. But yeah, that spot, I've been staring at that spot for a long time. And then pieces of the yard started getting put out there. And Larry kept mentioning, you know, we're gonna have this, and I was like, well, I've done containers before. And then Larry mentions they want a graph style, and Juan just keeps saying you. And there's a few other artists that on it, and they're all super talented, and they all do their own thing. But like, it's all, they're all more in like the fine art type of like headspace or like art space, whereas like a storage container, you want kind of a grittier, grimier, like, so you instantly need spray paint. Being a business that it still needs to be legible, like I drafted a few versions of the yard that's written on there. Yeah. In more graph style, but you need legibility as a business. Yeah. So that's kind of like a constant trade-off of how raw can I get this? How professional does it need to be without like upsetting either crowd? You know, like the graph heads probably think that what I painted was toyish, and these people probably think it's hard graffiti when it's not graffiti at all. You know, like, so, but that particular mural was like super cool. It's in a style that I've already done another piece in that style. I would call it like, it's like an illustrative comic art. Okay. Kind of pop arty. It's more of a graphic style. I've done lots of photorealistic stuff, and I can, you know, point you at those murals in town. But with this one, like, there's just an energy. So, well, first I'll think about like all NFL logos. Think about a lot of the baseball logos. There's something about when you see an emblem that it invokes, right? When you see the Orioles bird. You know, when you see some of those, and a lot of them are letters, so they don't count. But like
Right,
the
yeah.
Seahawks, like that invokes an energy when you see that. So I wanted to go with an illustrative, almost kind of like mascot style energy with it versus something that was like more photorealistic. So,
I like that.
Yeah. And then I
killed
I was like, yeah, like this is on a gym. First off, Eric says Savage all the time. Yeah. What's up, Savages?
What's up, Savages?
Yeah. What's up?
Yeah.
And then
every room he enters in, I think he could enter an empty room and still yell that out.
He might still.
Yeah, it's just an instinct now.
Yeah, it's just like an impulse. It might be an OCD tick at this point. But then, you know, so on one set of the weight plates, I put Savage. The other, I put Beast Mode. I wanted to like stack an insurmountable. I think it's 800 pounds, which for a rhino is probably nothing.
Yeah, that's the warm-up set.
I think he's like he's just showing that it might be hard.
Yeah.
And his facial expressions in it, but like.
Well, a key to a good lifter is make lightweight look heavy and heavyweight look light.
Exactly.
So that's
exactly.
where he's at. Yeah.
So anytime I just pick up the bar, I make it look like it's like a blue whale. Like
it's so heavy.
Yeah, it's so heavy.
Yeah.
And then
That's intentional.
Yeah, it's all intentional.
Yeah.
That's all intentional.
Yeah.
That's not my old bones creaking and hurting.
Yeah, right. It's not 36 years of life.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But like you said, I mean, so when you do those murals, like, and I talked to other artists about this. I mean, it's manual labor.
Mm-hmm.
It is a tenfold, like up and down ladders. You're in the heat. You're walking back and forth. There's a lot of standing.
Yeah.
Which people don't realize like how heavy standing is. Like ACL Festival is happening, and think about you stand there watching music all day. It shouldn't take the energy out of you, but then your feet
You're exhausted,
throbbing by the end of it.
Yeah.
And so like murals are manual labor. I'm covered in filth every time I leave, dust and filth.
You ever tracked how many like calories you burn during like a session? Like you just have your watch going?
My watch is old school, analog. This go of it, but
I'm so fancy.
I do need. Well, I do like the health app, but that's only going to do like steps, which don't really count. I need to find ways to track that better.
Yeah.
I also need to develop more. I mean, I'd love to at some point speak with somebody that's better on it and like develop a program for muralists, because. I mean, you think about it like, so you're doing a squat, you engage that core until the point where it's about to loosen.
Yeah.
And then like, that's when you got to go back up.
Yeah.
Because if you dump all the way down, it's over. That way it's not going back up. But as a muralist, like painting the bottom part of this mural, I am dumped all the way down.
Yeah.
So now I'm just like full bend on my knees. A lot of times they're on I'm starting to collect like a photo album of like the weird positions I do.
Yeah.
The mural I was just painting last week, I had to use one of those like nasty like click, 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 click ladders that you lean up against the wall.
Oh yeah.
And I had to paint the top part of this, so I'm on a table that they built for this bar. Then I've got this ladder on top of it, and then I'm at the top of the ladder on one shoe. I took one shoe off so that I could use my big toe to put it on a small electrical pipe sticking out of the wall.
Coming in clutch.
While holding like a 2x1 to like just paint this little section, like anything you can to get that spot up there.
Yeah.
And so, most artists I know aren't going to be doing that. They're going to be a lot more safer. Like I'm the type that you give me the scissor lift and I'm standing on the railing because the lift only goes to 20 and I need that 25.
Yeah.
That's the young man in me that still thinks I can
keep that,
handle that.
Yeah,
we're trying that. But yeah, like I want to figure out the best, and I'll probably talk with like Lane, the PT, and some other folks about like ways to consider that in programming and training, because if you're gonna be 45 painting murals, if you're gonna be 50 painting murals. I may not be hanging on with one arm, like leaning out anymore, but.
Who you should talk to about that is our new coach, Michael. Have you met him?
No.
Yeah,
I think
buff
so.
dude, tatted up, but yeah, shocker, buff.
Oh,
and
Michael,
tatted.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
His girlfriend won the orangutan.
Oh, nice. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, inside job, man. I don't know. I didn't know that employees' spouses could win that. No, I'm just kidding. But he's big on animal flow, and look. I mean, you look at him. He looks like he's built like a linebacker. You know,
dense.
He's dense, but like you see him move, and you're like, this guy has strength through flexibility, and that to me is like the true definition of mobility, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Is like you can be flexible, but if you don't have strength through that range of motion, then it's kind of useless, in my opinion.
No, 100%.
So to be able to have strength in an awkward position like animal flow creates sounds a lot of kind of like what you're talking about.
Yeah, and that's actually, I mean, and that's a great idea, and I definitely want to talk to him. I mean, I think it's one of those weird, like, all the things that happen led up to the thing, but like when I paint, and I paint in these weird positions and in, excuse me, on these odd buildings, and I think it's all of those years of like the sports prior, and like you said, the mobility and the flexibility and the lean, and like, yeah, what you can hold on to with a couple fingertips in order to feel like you're not about to fall 16, 20 feet.
Yeah.
I feel like it's just a must.
Yeah.
But a lot of the artists I meet and I see, they don't do anything.
It's wild to me because I've always had that thought with tattoo artists.
Yeah.
I'm like, man, you are in such a bad position for so long.
Yeah.
And then I have some good friends that are tattoo artists, but not all of them are physically fit. Well, in fact, most of them are not.
Yeah. 100%.
And it's like, man, you must feel like, what are you doing on your free time to like prevent you from just feeling like crap all the time?
Yeah. And well,
so
and
it's interesting to hear you say the
Yeah.
incorporation of like athleticism and strength training into art.
Oh no, 100%. And I think like, I think it's so I remember, and maybe the phrase isn't completely correct, but I remember them talking about what was so epic about Tiger Woods, or one of the things was that he was like, yeah, he was one of the first golfers who introduced strength training into his regimen.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, any guy, girl, dog can go out and hit a golf ball. And they might be decent at it, and you could develop talent or skill potentially, but like when you tune your body, that's how you survive. I mean, like, for example, I did 5 murals in 6 weeks, the first 6 weeks of the year.
Oh, wow.
I did 5 murals, and I didn't miss a single workout.
Wow.
And I think the workouts is what saved me.
Yeah. Something to be said for that.
Because the movement, the exhaustion that actually puts you to bed at a decent time. Like last week I was kind of sick while I was working on this mural, and so I didn't work out at all last week, and each day you compress a little more.
Yeah.
And you just feel a little crappier.
Oh yeah.
And so like whether it's 15 minutes or you get your 2-hour workout every day, like you have to hit that gym.
Yeah.
Even or some sort of movement, like do something.
Yeah, and that you bring up a good point about Tiger. Other golfers, were worked out before him, but he brought in like true like what strength can bring to a golf course, because he swung so hard and got such like impressive repeatable distance, and that's the key word there is repeatable, because at that time his body was holding up to it. Now his body has unfortunately declined and pretty aggressively. A little bit of that is from a car accident, and some things I've read saying that he did too much running, and that's why his knees kind of fell apart the way they did. Because there's so much torque and rotation in golf. So there's certain things like you want to bring strength into it with sports in general, but now you want to look at what's going to benefit you like posturally, structurally, and that's where like when I do the strength and conditioning for the MMA program, like there's movements in there that I wouldn't do with general pop people, and then there's general population people that I wouldn't do their workouts for an MMA team. Like you have to make them strong in positions they're going to find themselves in, and be able to not only deliver force, and this is something I'm big on. I tell all the fighters, I'm like, you have to not only be able to deliver force, but you have to be able to absorb force. Yeah. And sometimes that means like landing in an awkward position, or because right now in the program we're doing steel mace lateral lunges, and a lot of fighters they're like, what? Like this is a new movement. I'm like, yeah, it's an offset load. We're putting you in an awkward position, but you're going to build strength in this position. And I always bring up, have you watched a lot of MMA like in your past?
watched. I am one of those people that can't tell you any lyrics from any songs, any names of any athletes. Like
I can't tell you the names of songs, but I could probably sing you the whole song. Like, cause if I put a CD on or a CD, dating myself.
Yeah,
If I put like music on, I'll jam out to it and I'll sing along, but I don't care who's singing it or or the name of the song.
No, 100%.
But I'll be able to tell, like I'll be able to like rap off every lyric on it.
Yeah. So that's my MMA history.
Carlos Condit, legend in the game. I was fortunate to do a little bit of work with him in Albuquerque. More so shot bows with him. That was really fun. He's a savage all around. Like a really cool guy, good dude. His fight name was Natural Born Killer, MBK.
Okay.
And he very much fits it. Like he's that dude. I'm like, man, you're really cool. But something tells me like you could be far off, like not far off from being not cool with someone if you don't like him.
Yeah.
He's got that look in his eyes, and there's a reason he's a legend in the game. But he fought Tyron Woodley a little early on, and he got kicked in one leg, and then kind of like spun out, and he ended up tearing the ACL on his opposite leg that he didn't even get hit on. And so for me, the awkward position that he kind of landed in is a good example of force absorption.
Yeah.
Like you have to have that tissue tolerance to be able to absorb force. And you see like a non-contact ACL tear is what you tend to see, especially in females, because like the shape of their hips is a little different. So you'll see like female soccer players tend to get like more non-contact ACL tears. Yeah, so like I said, being able to like load and absorb force and deliver force in different positions. So kind of wrapping it back up to Tiger Woods, like I remember hearing, this was maybe early 2000s, about like, oh, Tiger Woods is bench pressing 405. And I'm like, okay, I believe it because he's got shoulders and pecs and stuff. I'm like, but why? As a golfer, like is that now? Some people, like you look at John Jones, who is obviously the greatest fighter of all time. I don't care what anybody else says. You look on paper, he's the greatest fighter of all time. And I think he's your favorite fighter's favorite fighter. Like every fighter is like John Jones is the GOAT. Even Daniel Cormier is like, John Jones is a man. But you look at him and he likes to do powerlifting. And for me, I'm like, in the back of my mind, I'm like, man, powerlifting doesn't really benefit you in there. But then it's like, he's just something that he likes to do. And if that's what gets him in the weight room, so that's why I think about Tiger. I'm like, all right, if Tiger's really benching,
oh, that's the addiction. That's the addiction to the plates.
You're pushing your limits. You're pushing your body.
Where's
like
the next
people,
plate? Where's the next plate?
And you hear Arnold, an interview in the 70s where he's talking about getting a pump in the weight room. He's like, it just feels like I'm constantly coming.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's a different kind of intensity. So it's like I said, like if Tiger's ego and like what maybe like channeled him into like that like let's go mode was bench pressing, okay, I'm like I get it. But at the same time, on the other end of that, I'm like, how did that benefit him in golf?
It may have detracted like once he got too because then you start playing with flexibility, right? You start playing with like, and back to that we talked about like different body shapes for different sports. Like there's a moment where you can't get enough flexibility in your lats that you're not going to swing the same. Right. So you're not going to do a lot of things the same.
You don't see too many baseball players that have like really developed upper bodies. Every now and then you do. And what's funny is the ones that I've known and ones that I've seen, if you look into like their background and like how they were raised, like their dad's usually a strength coach or like a power lifter. Like, and so you'll see.
They might have been one of those split sport kids too.
Right. Grew up playing football and they just like that kind of lifting. But there was a guy, I can't think of his name right now. He's with the Cardinals, and then I want to say he got traded to the Yankees, and I'm not sure where he's at now. But I remember he had like a walk-off home run and they like ripped off his jersey. And I'm like, that guy looks like Adrian Peterson, but white guy, but like just jacked. I'm like, this guy is huge. And to me, I'm like, I've always think like, because I played with a kid in high school that he was more into football than he was into baseball, but he was a good baseball player, but he definitely had more of a football body. And his throwing motion was not good. And he was very athletic, but he just couldn't throw the ball hard. And he grew up playing baseball. Like this was the thing. I played with him in Little League, and then I was 1 or 2 years older than him, so we kind of met back up in high school, like when he got into high school. And I was like, man, like you physically have grown, but I think you throw the ball softer now.
Wall. Yeah. I can see that. I mean, I think that's like the chemistry. Like we're playing with a chemistry set, and we're incredibly complex.
Oh yeah.
And if your goal is so like me doing lifting in the gym has no relation to bouldering. I should be focused purely on body weight, calisthenics, grip strength, but I wanted to do lifting for a while, and I want to like see what's possible in that category. But yeah, you're tuning your body to the sport you do, and like I think it's actually interesting. If like a lot of Red Bull's account is a lot of these like, what is this for? And they're doing some really odd motion.
Yeah.
And it's like the chick. I think she has a dumbbell in her hand, and she's on the treadmill, and she's like leaning it to the side in some motion that you're like, why are you on a walking treadmill?
On walking, okay.
Well, she does luge. And so it's training
oh, you know what? I've seen that.
those muscles, yeah. And so, and a lot of that, so, you know, in gymnastics, we didn't do a lot of weightlifting. We did none. Some in the summer just, I think, to entertain us. But we did a ton of drills and exercises that were built to build up the spots we were going to need later.
Yeah.
I mean, like it's interesting to see dips get added to my programming, and then like see other people doing dips in the gym, and it's like, we did 10 variations of dips. Like we did dip swings, we did dip hops, we did like all sorts of just crazy combos. And it was all, just to practice the catching, that absorption that you talked about, and then the explosion out of it. It's all like just to build those shoulders of gymnast. But also in that line, I was gonna say, you talked about like the non-affected body part being affected. We actually had my coach was known enough, or liked, and whatever the reasoning. My coach had a lot of athletes from different sports come in. We had football players come in and practice like fall drills, or practice you hear about football players doing ballet.
Yeah. Fighters.
Yeah, fighters.
Yeah.
And
you know who Lomachenko is?
I think so. Yeah.
Boxer Vasily Lomachenko. He's one of the most technical, I think his fight name's High Tech or something like that. And you watch him move, and it's just so precise, everything he does. But he is classically trained in dancing.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that was he got into boxing first at 6 years old. But then his parents oh, you're gonna do classical dance as well. Yeah. Sorry, so not to cut you off.
No,
but
and I think I think that's a super important thing to consider. Is you may have started in this sport, but you can pull. It's the same with art. It's the same with any passion or endeavor you go for. Right? You can pull from your past experiences. Jiu-jitsu taught patience, movement, intentional movement, right? Intentional movement, intentional. You did that over and over and over.
Drillers make killers.
And then you get to bouldering, and I introduced that same kind of intentional slide. I feel like I probably look maybe a little silly up there because I'm moving very methodical and with intention and slowly, and I like to move like that. Whereas you'll see some people that are just rah, 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 very aggressive with it. But I think all of those things that came before play that role in later, like I said, how I feel confident enough to lean off of a lift with one hand and one hand on a, that's all from the pre-story.
Yeah.
The time with Eddie at On It, that trained me to get all of the contract work I've gotten since then, and to give it a bar.
Yeah. And
then I've worked with clients like Red Bull for over a decade, and they've raised the bar. And so everybody I meet, now it's well, we're always going to set you at this bar.
Yeah.
You're always going to get this. That mural at On It, I'll be forthcoming, it was a trade.
Yeah.
And so, normally that mural would have costed a pretty penny, but I again have fallen back in love with the community of On It, and I really wanted to support them. And fitness is an obvious important thing. But just because that mural was a trade, I treated it like every other one.
Yeah, and it's been so impactful at the gym that we made it into a sticker.
It's a sticker.
Yeah.
They want to talk about T-shirts.
Yeah.
I think
it's such a dope logo.
It's on the back of a backdrop.
Yeah, I think on T-shirts, hoodies, I'm yes. Yeah. I'm all for it.
And I need to
about it.
And I need to finesse it. I want to have. That's where the creative control wants to. I want to.
Yeah.
Don't just put it out. Let me get eyes on it. Let me rework the design if we need to. Because I want something that I want to wear as well, right?
Yeah.
And that's something you have to consider, back to I guess a tandem in the design world is if I'm training to look a certain way to do things a certain way, you do it in the same as design. Like, you don't treat a mural the same way you treat a t-shirt design, the same way you treat like a podcast logo or background. Like, there's different, and you have to treat every one of them differently.
Yeah. I mean, it's just like training athletes.
Yeah.
You know, there's not one like cookie cutter program. Like, this is what's going to make you more athletic. It's like there are movements that should be incorporated like in every program. But sometimes they're structured differently. You know, sometimes I'm doing a staggered stance deadlift to help a fighter, you know, get more explosive on takedowns or something, whatever the case may be. You know what I'm saying? But not everything should be the same. So like you said, like reworking a piece of art to fit differently in certain situations is just like programming. Like, you have to rework the certain movement to make it fit to where it's benefiting that person the most. Because any coach, and I've met so many good coaches that are well educated, and for whatever reason, it does, like, things don't work out. But if you kind of just keep the same cookie cutter program, like, people are gonna catch on to that, and it might work for a little bit because like general fitness, like we call GPP, general fitness phase, is definitely a thing. Like, there are general movements across the board that you should be able to do, but then you can start to refine it for different athletes. And so, like I said, if you're not constantly evolving the program, like you're doing a disservice not only to your client but to yourself in the long run.
Oh, 100%. You have to observe, you know, like, for example, I'm on corrugated metal. I've got to consider all of those ripples when painting, and like, how is that going to affect what I'm putting on it? My high school coach has to consider that kid rolls his ankle every single week. That kid has rubber ankles.
Yeah.
That kid just sucks at floor, so we're not going to, you know, he's off floor. You know, like, you have to cater, okay, everybody's getting this conditioning list, and then I'm like, I remember, so every day our coach had a notebook, boom, open. It has a quote at the top, something inspirational. It's got the warm up, it's got the workout, and then the conditioning. And the conditioning, like, there was like segments. So there's individualized things that need to be focused by individual people. On top of, we all need to do more dips. Yeah. But we also, like, hey, you need to do that particular press handstand type, because that's in your routine, and we have to like focus on it this way. Yeah. Like different positions in sports. You know, an offensive lineman should be doing different workouts than a wide receiver or a kicker. You know what I'm saying? Like that. So it's interesting you say that. And to kind of bring it full circle, like we were talking about how there's like a general base of like movements you want to be able to do. Like, I've said this since day one, like, when I have kids, they will start in gymnastics. Learn how to control your body, learn how to fall. If they want to continue in gymnastics, that's fine. I'm totally fine. My dad was a gymnast. I've never told you that. But coming up from Columbia, my dad was a gymnast. Tight. And then if they want to, I will obviously want them to get into like baseball or whatever. MMA. Try it all, honestly. Because, and I think we get into, I think we're starting to work our way out of it. But for a long time, you saw kids becoming a solo sport athlete. And it's so detrimental to the kid, not only for their development as a well-rounded individual, but even in that sport. Like, I'll never forget the last year I coached baseball. I coached 2 years of high school ball when I was done playing college, and then I coached 2 years of club ball that were like 11 and 12-year-olds, and that was the best time I ever had coaching. Those kids were so fun. But our best athlete, shortstop, 3-hole hitter, played soccer. Yeah. Like, I think baseball was more of his main thing. Yeah. But he also played soccer, and you could tell by the way he ran the bases. I'm like, this kid runs like he's on a mission. Well, also probably his fielding, like his pivot,
good footwork, good body control. And that's the thing. Like, I never excelled at basketball. I wasn't a fan of it, but there's so much like movement and just like soccer, so much movement and conditioning. Have you ever met Dallas Dodd, the MMA fighter from 10th Planet? He's been around on it for a long time. Tall.
I've seen him. Yeah,
I'm sure you've seen. I've probably talked to him and you at the same time. Yeah. But I had him on a couple episodes ago, and I compared him to like Sean O'Malley, who's one of the best fighters at 135 right now. Just lost the belt, but his background in basketball makes him such a slick MMA fighter. He moves so well, and you can tell he's got that like basketball flow to him. And like I said, being well-rounded in other sports like is such an attribute to have, because like I said, it ended up being a big thing in baseball, because you're seeing young kids get Tommy John, which is elbow surgery from blowing out their UCL. and you're seeing like high school kids do it, and you're like, what is going on? It's like, well, yeah, they're playing year-round club ball, they're playing in their school, they're playing with their little league team as well, and they're also throwing off of a mound year-round, and that's where you see a lot of issues come in, is that downhill throw off a mound. Like flat ground is good to throw on. Like you'd see, you hear like old pitchers talking about that never had like arm issues, old pitchers. And they're like, yeah, in between starts, I'd go take grounders at short and just throw them across the diamond. But they weren't throwing off a hill year round, because that downhill torque is a lot on the elbow. So like I said, just playing other sports, being well-rounded as an athlete, and then like seeing how that has actually contributed to you as an artist is really cool.
No, I mean, it's, I tell people this all the time. I mean, do every type of art or create a process. You never know what like trying to play guitar could do for your visual art. You never know.
Yeah.
Surrounding your space, it's that idea of like you surround your space, your space, or with people that are stimulating you and are going to like increase that creativity in you, or that success, or that ambition and drive. Like, right? It's the same thing with like, collect different avenues, like try ceramics, and you might learn to. I mean, like I said, I did printmaking. That's what I minored in, and like the
You mean fixing printers?
Yes, yes. Printmaking is a long haul. It's a ton of prep, and then you print some prints.
Yeah.
And so I've learned, like when I work on these new murals, I don't go, oh, pretty picture, I'm going to paint it. It's like, okay, I strategize about supplies I need, what I need to bring, how I'm going to get the design on the wall, like how I'm going to load the paint, what sections still need to be worked on, how to finesse it. Like that minor in printmaking did not make me a famous artist. But what it did do was it showed me where and how to like break down a project, and so that you get to the end game without killing yourself or without like messing up a section. And that's, I mean, pre-planning is everything. And I think like sports is the same. I mean, that's training. Pre-planning an art project and training are the same thing. Like you cannot just go out there, throw 105 for 7 innings and like be lickety split. You have to train constantly. You have to rehab constantly. You have specific coaches.
Yeah.
Like that's another thing.
Oh yeah.
You know, like Little League, like we had the one guy. The head coach was a dad.
Yeah.
And then the other dads who thought they knew.
They kept score.
They watched the videos.
Yeah.
And so yeah, no, and I did Little League baseball, and I'd go back to baseball if I could have, but I didn't. It was one of those deals. I collected what I could from soccer. I collected what I could from baseball, and then me and my brother just slayed at gymnastics, like destroyed the other kids in elementary school, and got into club, and we were great as it progressed, but like by high school year, it was untouchable in some aspects of it.
It's funny to kind of wrap this all up, talking about like the prep work that goes into all of that. The very first time I came to On It, it was like end of October, maybe 2016 or 2017, I forget what year, probably 2017. And they used to do warehouse sales up at the front. And so I go out there, and it's in the parking lot because it's a big ass warehouse.
Yeah.
And I'm out there, and with every like item you bought, they would give you a free coffee cup. And they gave me this mug, this coffee mug. I bought an On It tank top that I still have to this day. And on the mug, it was, and they had these cool series of mugs. I want to say there were 3 or 4 of them. There was a red one, a brown one, and a blue one. They're all black, but these are the accents. And they had different quotes from like famous people. And if I'm not mistaken, the one that was brown had Abe Lincoln, and they had like the cool, like the gorilla work that we talked about. They had these cool little portraits on the front that had no faces, but you could tell by the figure who it was.
Yeah.
And so on the cup, on the mug, you see the front, you can tell it's Abe Lincoln. And on the back, it has a quote from Abe Lincoln, and it says something along the lines of, "If you give me 6 hours to chop down a tree, I'll spend the first 4 sharpening the axe." And so I'm like, wow, man, that's really funny that you bring that all like full circle, because the prep work that goes into that, like I said, you can be a guy that throws 105, but he didn't wake up throwing 105.
No.
And he does a certain amount of things, and that's every athlete, every artist, or should be, like you said, like you're doing the prep work to get you into better positions where you're able to create art that maybe some other people couldn't. And so, like I said, to kind of wrap that all up, man, it's really cool to see like how much influence you've had it on it, and how you've come back to it, and you're contributing in a major way now to like the aesthetics of the gym and the way we're able to promote the gym. Tell the people where they can find you, man. Where are we looking at social media?
I mean, the spelling is odd, but it is Jiminai.
Yeah.
Jiminai. Instagram's probably the best. It's still like, photo-related app. You can see all the imagery of the things I've been working on. You can search, that's a pretty unique spelling, so you can search Twitter, my website, et cetera. Oh, yeah. X, excuse me. But yeah, I mean, Instagram's the primary, and then if you're ever in Austin, I mean, there's 10 to 15 murals.
Yeah, I was going to say you're
point
everywhere.
Your direction, yeah. And they're just going up more.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Good for you. That's what are you currently working on?
I am actually painting a red light therapy room at a wellness center in Westlake.
Oh, sick.
And we're doing like a Buddha theme. And then I'm gonna actually, it's a calm period has happened. It's been a crazy year of murals this year, so a calm period is about to happen, and I think I might like work towards another solo show.
Oh, sick.
So smaller, like home buyable pieces. But inevitably, some more stuff will come up.
Yeah.
I think there's like a nonprofit soccer field I want to paint a piece for. There's gyms popping up left and right. Eventually, maybe you'll have a gym.
That's the plan. Yeah, that's long term. I think any strength and conditioning coaches, that's kind of like their long term goal is to own their own gym.
With all the toys. And
and I, with the name of the podcast being the Lions Pit, I actually have an LLC for a gym already called the Lions Pit.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll start scheming.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, please do, because like I said, I would love to get some good artwork for that.
Yeah.
And like you said, it definitely creates a vibe for the gym. Like you see the Rhino on it, and you're like, all right, this is where work is done. This is not like a soft place right now.
Well, and it's great. It's if you want to deck all the equipment in your gym all black, that's
yeah.
But those pops of colors are like the personalities in the gym.
Yeah.
Like we're not in there to like record ourselves on cameras and like look fancy and high end, and like those people are in there to work and sweat and accidentally tear holes in things.
Yeah.
And break plates, like not intentionally, but like
right. But it happens because we're putting in the work. And there are gyms in town that are very aesthetic, and you see a lot of influencers go to, and you look at the influencers' videos, and it's like, yeah, sure, they're getting it, but you look in the background and nothing is happening.
Yeah.
Like no one else is getting it in the gym, but it's a pretty gym to shoot
and
content
it's super hard to get a video on it without someone doing something primal
we got bodies moving
or aggressive in the background. Yeah,
I think 100%. Some of the events we've had lately where we have like drone footage is so cool.
So
just to see all the bodies that are going on. Like
it's a little too much for some of us who like to control the amount of people
for sure.
in the room. But
well, kind of going back to not to continue or overrun time, but you're talking about earlier, like you never know what people are listening to.
Yeah.
There was one time I was working out and getting after it, and one of my friends in the gym, this girl, she comes up, and I had my phone sitting on the boxes, and I'm over like doing something, and she goes and grabs my phone, and I'm just listening to the Cubs game.
Yeah,
I'm just listening to baseball, but like if you were to see me, you'd probably think I'm listening to like Slipknot or something.
Oh, something.
Yeah.
Just heavy. Yeah. It's whatever slides you into a flow state, right?
Yeah. I can tune. I'm listening to the Cubs game, and it's flow state. Like you're like I don't really feel how awful this 380-pound deadlift is right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's whatever helps you survive the demons.
Yeah, that's a story for another podcast.
Oof.
Yeah. Thanks, man.
Next
I appreciate you coming on. This has been awesome. It's been really cool to hear your story, and then like I said, especially how it ties into On It. That's where we met essentially at a holiday party, and On It's been such a huge influence in my life. So like I said, it's been cool to see the impact that you've had on it.
Yeah, it's been absolute pleasure. Like we're gonna have to get out and play some golf or baseball at some point instead of just talking about it.
Or rock climb. Yeah, I'm down for some bouldering.
You know what? If you wanted to see the new mural, Crux Climbing Gym in just opened in Pflugerville.
Oh,
I
okay.
up north. Put up like a 40 by 18 foot piece.
Oh wow. Let's go.
I did the Monkey King.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, to play off of like the Chinese lore of the misfit.
Yeah.
So if you don't know anything about the Monkey King, look him up. He's devious, but super strong.
Yeah.
And at Crux, they rate their climbs by animals. And so the monkey's the hardest climb.
Oh, no way. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
The easiest is a panda.
Very nice. I thought it'd be like a sloth or something. Yeah.
Sloth, it might be second. I think
Okay.
it might go panda, sloth, raccoon or something like
Nice.
that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm down, man. Like I said, I actually do enjoy bouldering. I haven't done it in years, but I still have my climbing shoes. I still have my chalk, so
Hell yeah.
I'm ready to go.
Let's do it.
Yeah, man, that'd be a good time.
Awesome, man.
All right, cool.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Again, this has been the Lion's Pit. This is Austin, aka Jiminai. I'm your host, Nick Gomez. Shout out to Simple Plan Nutrition, a local Austin company making easy to track your macros meals. So go ahead and get your orders in. Shout out to Zach Wolf, who's running that company. He's doing a great job with them. Again, Austin, appreciate you having on, brother.
Thank you, sir.